Hello, I'm Sarah Fay from Roots and Resonance, and happy eclipse. It's the full blood moon supermoon eclipse of January 2019, which happened a matter of hours ago here in the UK, in the North UK. I believe it was about 20 to 5 in the morning that peak eclipse time started. So we are still very much in the shadow, or in the actual happenings of the energy of this eclipse time, which, if you are interested in astrology or curious about astrology, I'd recommend delving into that a little bit, because there are loads of really great videos out there on YouTube, and also articles that you can look up on social media and so on about the particular energy of this time. We have a lot around, on a personal level as well as on a global level. What are we being held to account for in our lives that no longer serves us? Questions around what needs to be cleansed, what needs to be purged from our lives or from our ways of living. And certainly we can see politically, globally, that there's a lot happening right now. The energy is really ramping up for this year, I believe, around what no longer serves us, what is no longer sustainable, what is maybe a tipping point, really. And that tipping point allows us to address and have the energy behind us to release those patterns, those behaviours, those relationships, those situations that no longer bring us health, that no longer bring us vitality, that no longer bring us our truth. Anything that gets in the way, basically, of us being at our most potential, our most abundant and fulfilling. So there is a massive energetic shift happening, and for those of you who are interested in that, there's lots more information out there. But moving from, I'd say, like, the most beautiful way that we could look at this eclipse that I've been finding is that this moving from a place of thinking that really puts us into the same kind of questions, revisiting the same kind of painful issues and barriers in our lives that prevent us from moving forward with success and with consistency, moving into a place of heartfelt intuition, using our intuition and our minds together to bring us into a whole new way of seeing and living. So that kind of feels like a way of summarising what's happening cosmologically, what may be happening personally. And as I move into this reading, we will explore that a little bit more specifically, about how that energy may play out on a practical level, a day-to-day level in your lives. Okay. So I've drawn 3 cards from 3 different tarot decks that I like using, and also 3 runes to complement and support each of the cards. So they work symbiotically together, creating a synergy of messages and meaning that hopefully will resonate in some corner of your life right now, or any kind of major decisions that you might be sitting with, or issues that you're working through. So the first card that I've drawn, I've asked in relation to this eclipse, what energies or what issues are surfacing at the moment in this early stage of the eclipse time. So we have here the 7 of Pentacles drawn from the Wild Unknown Tarot deck. And this very simplistic card is showing us there is some direction, as the arrow kind of energy for me feels like it's showing momentum and direction as each of these pentacles is lined up in a path that has a beginning and a path that is continuing into the future. But the questions that this card raises are exactly that. They're around the future, they're around the present. Okay, so the pentacles are the manifestation of earth energy in the tarot, and right way up this card in particular speaks of any venture that has already moved beyond its early initial beginning stages and is moving ahead into the future, progressing. Some area of our lives we are progressing, but when it's right way up, it's saying, yeah, this is a time to start seeing, tending the seedlings that are establishing and maturing in your garden of success, however that might look. Not ready to pick the apples off the tree yet, but they are ripening, and you can see that everything that you've done so far to tend this area of your life is starting to manifest healthy results, but you've still got a little way to go before that becomes sustainable. So questions around sustainability and longevity of any venture in your life that has a material manifestation. So that could be, at the moment, certainly seeing a lot of energy around life purpose, around life work. Okay, so thinking about your day-to-day work, as well as the visions and the dreams that you are having right now that that you're working on in some way. On a practical level, you're starting to manifest more in a more mature way. It could be community work, it could be social connections and how they influence your life purpose at this time. It's definitely something materialistically concrete that has maybe come from your visions and your mind, and is now a creative venture and project that you're delivering to the world or you're progressing with. It might even be something that's taken many forms and many years to develop, but somehow it's still in its middling stages. And the questions for you here when it's reversed is around how much energy are you putting into that venture versus how much return are you gaining for that work. And it could be that right now, because it's reversed, there are questions around, is it really worth it? You know, maybe you're feeling a sense of disconnection from that original spark of inspiration that you had however many years, months or days ago. And that this venture that in your life is not something, it's not saying that you should walk away from it completely, that you should throw it down and abandon it. It's not time to jump ship. And certainly I would emphasize that during an eclipse period, certainly for the next few days, the next week or so after the 21st, the actual eclipse time itself, it's not a great time to make any big dramatic changes, to sign contracts, to make any decisions that will affect your long term. It's a good time to look at the questions that are coming up, the fears, the doubts, any fatigue, any kind of boredom, or any sense of something isn't working out, you know, something that you believe in, something that you've invested in, but perhaps you're investing too much. Perhaps you need to reassess your strategies, your approach. Is your approach to this particular venture, this aspect of your life, sustainable for you? Is your health starting to play up, and maybe your physical energy isn't where it once was, and maybe it's not the right time to make decisions around streamlining and making your business more efficient, but you do need to do that. For example, if this is talking about the realm of business, if you're starting a new business or a new project creatively, it could be a time to take some time out and really consider those fundamental questions around, what is my goal here? What is my inspiration with this? And what approaches am I taking to make this happen, to manifest this? What has worked for me so far and what clearly isn't working for me? What investment do I need, either from others, from outside sources, or from my own skill set or my own money perhaps? What do I need to invest to make this more sustainable in the long term? Because really we are being held to account right now by this energy. What do we truly value and believe in? What are we trying to manifest in the longer term in our lives right now? And how can we make that process more smooth and more efficient? Because it's not just about the hard work and commitment that you put in, the real sort of getting your hands dirty work, which is what the Pentacles are all about, and immersing in that. It's also about what are you gaining? What are you starting to receive from your efforts? And if it's not substantial enough, or you're really giving way more than you should be, and you're starting to feel tired, it's a good time to take some time out and reassess and reevaluate. Make some notes, do some plans, some journaling. Perhaps it's a really good time to take a break. Alongside that, we have, accompanying this card, we have Wunjo, which is, I don't know if you can see that, it's the Norse rune of joyfulness. And with Wunjo we have, and particularly if we show that it's coming up with the Pentacles, which is a card of tilling the earth and of continuing to nurture and feed and tend your vision, your project, your venture. Wunjo is emphasizing there must be joyfulness within any consistent venture that brings success. There must be a sense of operating from a place of satisfaction, of inspiration, of pleasure. And if this venture is not, by its middling stages, bringing us that sense of connection and pleasure, maybe we need to reassess our approach, which I believe is what I've already said basically about this card. And this rune is very much simply saying, if your venture is not bringing you that pleasure that you maybe initially felt when you started on that path, how can you bring that magic back? Because this version of joyfulness, for me, it feels like in the Norse way of bringing this rune to us, there is a sense of finding joy in getting your hands dirty, in the day-to-day life that you have, in the commitment that you have to your venture and your vision, that work itself brings you comfort, it brings you joy, it brings you pleasure, and it brings you rewards of success. And if your venture is not doing that for you, or you can't see how it could do that for you, you need to take some time out and reassess that. Because ultimately, we can't operate from an empty cup. Eventually, we do need some return for our efforts. Okay, moving into what to integrate more right now during this eclipse time. What will help us and support us, particularly given that we need to ask some questions around what is working for us on our particular, in the material sphere of our lives. What are we contributing to the world, and how is that working out for us? What strategies do we need to change and reevaluate to bring us more joy, success and pleasure? We are looking at rest, retreat, healing, to help us integrate the questions that we are asking, the purging, the cleansing, the letting go energy that's also very much part of this eclipse. Before we make any changes and any big decisions and go out there and start doing them, we really need to take some time out for ourselves. Okay, the eclipse energy and the energy that's around us may be creating a lot of stress, tiredness, and of course fatigue in the body and mind could be present, as well as also being overwhelmed by a barrage of questioning and reassessment and that new year excitement, that it's a time for making resolutions and making changes. Well, perhaps we need to allow ourselves to stop for a while, take some rest, and this is particularly emphasizing the quality of our sleep, of our deep rest, of how we relax our bodies to allow our minds to bring visions and dreams to us. Because deep rest allows for, as represented by the beautiful swallowtail butterfly, deep rest allows for our most potent visions to come to us through dreams, through creativity. And when we start to rest and slow our pace right down, the questions that we've been bombarding ourselves with, or the stresses and strains that we've been dealing with, begin to lessen, and we can start to find some clarity in a place of peace and healing. If you're dealing with physical health struggles right now, which could be an example of something that may be making your work challenging. The Seven of Pentacles speaks of not work that we necessarily need to abandon, but for example, ventures that we are finding difficult to sustain, perhaps literally on a physical level, then this would speak to you very directly to recommend that you take some time out to rest and recharge, to seek healing, perhaps through physical health regime changes, new routines to how you interact with your body's health, your mind's health. And it could simply be that rest and sleep needs to be emphasized. It could also be a good time to seek out a therapist, a healer, to get a really good massage, or to start having Epsom salt baths to keep hydrated. Those are all really good things that you can support yourself. Body and mind can be supported, as well as spirit, through these kind of practices whilst we go through this heightened energy shift, and whilst we're also dealing with a lot of life questions. So integrate self-care, rest, recharge, and emphasized by the rune Isa, which is the rune of ice. It translates as ice in Nordic. So we have in Old Norse this energy of stasis, of stillness before transition and transformation occurs. It can also bring with it a sense of frustration, a sense of blockage. And many of us are experiencing a lot of questions right now around how we live our lives, what needs to be released and let go of, what's getting in our way of our true potential for joyful success. And maybe we just need to surrender, to surrender to rest, to surrender to letting go for a little while, a couple of days out, a holiday, a break, or literally just going to bed earlier, allowing yourself to have just an hour or two more of rest and sleep a day could be really beneficial right now and bring you that clarity that you need to unblock whatever it is that might be creating a sense of frustration or stagnancy in your life. Once you bring yourself into a place of rest and alignment with your body's needs, you'll find that some of that stagnancy will melt away. That will allow you to begin to see that transformation is not just about constantly needing to control or constantly needing to be out there doing and delivering, that actually being still is a really valuable way to then reconnect with your productivity and to also reassess and reevaluate where you are at right now in your life journey. So that's not a waste of time. Rest is actually extremely important for recharging whatever vision or whatever project you might be working on. And in that rest time, you might be journaling, you might be coming up with some great ideas, you might be receiving some signs through meditation or through when you're out on walks in nature. You might be getting some really great inspiration. Write that down, paint that, draw that, capture it, and think about maybe moving into a place of making decisions when the time feels more appropriate. So letting this initial period of heightened energy state calm down a little bit before you start making any steps towards bringing physical change into your life. Be rest assured that the ice will melt as the wheel turns. So the final card that I've drawn is about the initial opportunities of this early stages of this full moon eclipse time. So after a time of rest and recharge, and I think this also could be integral for many of you to a time of rest and recharge, to a time of taking stock and reassessment of where you really are. You might be going through some old familiar patterns that need to be released and let go of, or you might be in a place of actually experiencing some trauma or some past history that is coming to the surface now that needs to be felt and experienced in the spirit of grief, mourning and release. The Three of Swords is traditionally a card of mourning and release and grief, and feeling that pain and that sorrow that might be circulating within you, that could have been circulating within you or around you for quite some time. Perhaps you've just been so immersed in all these questions, in all the busyness that's been around you. Now you need to just flop, let yourself relax and rest, allow dreams and visions to come to you and inspiration, as we just saw, but also allow any painful emotions to emerge. Sit with them in meditation, in reflection. Allow yourself to feel, because there are a lot of emotions coming to the surface right now. That is part of a process of new beginning. Before new beginnings can occur, before the creative energy can begin to play out more sustainably, more consistently in our lives, we often need to cut away cords of attachment to grief, sadness and sorrow, and let ourselves feel that. So it's in a healthy expression with the right way up, suggesting that this is a necessary path, that there's a lot to let go of, culturally, socially and personally during these times. Some of those things may be really painful, and certainly as we move into a place of combining our heart with our minds, so that our hearts can bring us the intuitive wisdom we need for stepping into what we need to do with our lives next, so that we can feel that joyful sense of being vital and alive and present in our work and in our life's work. And we can use our minds to help us navigate the next steps, the questions that we are asking, how to make our visions more sustainable, how to make our time and energy more efficient and rewarding. But when we go into a place of letting go, we might have to realise that the healing journey is a spiral process. It's a cyclical process. We might be going over old ground, and the reasons why the eclipse moon is perhaps casting its blood red light on our pain, on our trauma, on anything that is challenging to let go of, is because that is something that is getting in our way of our true potential now. Okay, so what is painful that you don't necessarily want to face but you know you need to, that is getting in the way of freedom and of a whole new journey? Because the next and final rune to support mourning, to support the Three of Swords, which I drew from the Llewellyn Tarot deck, is Fehu, the rune of wealth, which translates literally in Old Norse as cattle, which to the Norse people was the kind of expression of wealth, the expression of money, the expression of abundance. We have that sense of, by letting ourselves feel our pain and release what no longer serves us in our lives, we release ourselves to a new story of abundance, a new story of growth and sustained wealth. We allow ourselves to be creative and to manifest that creativity in the work that we offer to the world. We allow our higher potential and our success through release. So I hope that reading has been insightful and brought some resonance to you in your own lives, or in what you're seeing going on around you at the moment, maybe even in the grander scheme of things. I'd just like to say that you can follow me on Instagram under Roots and Resonance. I'm also on Facebook under the same name. And for those of you who are local to the north of England, or Yorkshire anyway, I do run community events and circles, seasonal circles. I'm dreaming up other offerings as well that will be coming later in the year. And really my work is focused on earth and spirit connection work as well as divination. So if you're curious about receiving a reading from myself, a one-to-one reading experience using the runes and the tarot, which can be either in combination or separate, please do look at my website, www.rootsandresonance.net, which I will put in the notes below this video on YouTube. And there you can see through my website there's various options, including options for those on a low income who would like a reading either one-to-one in person or via video call, or even email readings where you get your own customized, personalized booklet where I will photograph each card that comes up for your reading and personalize that just for you. So please let me know if you would like a reading, and otherwise happy eclipse time. Bye for now.